application gets submitted. Somewhere behind the scenes, a decision gets made, and the applicant finds out the result without ever seeing how it happened. That opacity is why people feel powerless in this process. They're told to have good credit, but not what good means in context. Told to apply, but not what happens after they hit submit. Tonight, that process gets walked through step by step, not to game it, but because understanding how a decision gets made is what allows someone to present a stronger application in the first place. Most applications never touch human hands. When an application is submitted, it typically enters an automated underwriting system first. That system runs a set of rules, thresholds for score, income, debt-to-income ratio, and other data points, and sorts the application into one of three outcomes: approved automatically, declined automatically, or referred for manual review. The approvals and declines at this stage happen in seconds. Nobody read anything. A rules engine matched the inputs against the criteria and produced an output. This is worth understanding because it changes how to think about applications. A clean, consistent, complete application isn't just polite. It's what allows automated systems to process it without generating flags. Mismatched addresses, income entered differently than verification shows, incomplete fields, or inconsistencies with existing records can push an otherwise approvable application into a slower path or a decline. The rules engines are modern, but the framework they encode has been used in lending for a very long time. It's commonly summarized as the 5 C's of credit. Character is credit history. Payment record, length of history, how obligations have been handled over time. This is where the credit score lives, and it answers, has this person repaid what they borrowed before? Capacity is the ability to repay from current income. This is debt-to-income ratio territory. It answers, is there actually room in this person's monthly budget for another payment? Capital is what the applicant has of their own: savings, assets, down payment. It signals both a cushion against hardship and personal investment in the outcome. Collateral applies to secured lending. What backs the loan if repayment stops? This is why auto loans and mortgages have different approval dynamics than unsecured credit cards. Conditions covers everything contextual: the purpose of the loan, current economic environment, the institution's own lending appetite at that moment. That last one deserves emphasis because it's the one applicants have no control over and rarely consider. Lending standards tighten and loosen based on economic conditions and institutional strategy. The same application submitted in different periods can get different answers. A denial isn't always about the applicant. When an application gets referred for human review, a different kind of evaluation begins. An underwriter is looking for context the automated system couldn't interpret. Why is there a gap in employment? Why did utilization spike 3 months ago? Why is there a recent inquiry cluster? Whether the income documentation supports what was stated. This is where explanation matters and where applicants have more influence than they realize. Documentation that clarifies an anomaly, a letter explaining a temporary situation, proof that a disputed item was resolved, evidence of income that isn't reflected in standard verification, can change an outcome that the automated system would have declined. Manual review is also where relationship history enters for existing customers. Length of relationship, deposit history, how accounts have been managed internally. As covered previously, this information doesn't appear on credit reports, but does factor into decisions at institutions where a relationship already exists. This is the question that frustrates people most, and now it can be answered clearly. Two people, same score, different outcomes. The reasons stack up quickly. Different debt-to-income ratios. One person's obligations consume a much larger share of monthly income than the others. Different income stability. Salaried employment with long tenure evaluates differently than variable income or a recent job change, even at the same annual figure. Different relationship history at that institution. Different application products. The threshold for a premium rewards card differs enormously from the threshold for a basic secured card. Same applicant, different product, different answer, different timing. Institutional lending appetite shifts. Different thin file situations. A 720 score, built over 15 years, with a diverse mix of accounts, evaluates differently than a 720 built over 2 years with a single card. The score is the same number, almost nothing else is. Practical takeaways, in order of impact. Reduce reported balances before applying. Credit card balances are typically reported once per month. Paying down before the statement closes means a lower balance reports, which improves both utilization and the minimum payment feeding into debt to income. This single move can meaningfully change an application's profile without changing anything else. Space out applications. Inquiry clustering signals. Urgency to underwriting. Where possible, allow time between applications rather than submitting several in a short window. Match the product to the profile honestly. Applying for a product well above where the profile sits generates a denial and an inquiry with nothing gained. Many institutions publish general guidelines or offer pre-qualification tools that indicate likelihood without a hard inquiry. Keep the application consistent. Same address format as what's on file with the bureaus. Income stated accurately and consistent with what documentation will show. Employer name matching prior records. Have documentation ready. If income is variable, self-employed, or otherwise non-standard, having documentation prepared in advance means a manual review can be resolved quickly rather than declined for insufficient information, and if declined, read the adverse action notice. The listed reasons are the actual decision factors, not generic language. They point directly at what to address before the next attempt. The approval process isn't arbitrary, and it isn't personal. It's a structured evaluation running mostly on rules, sometimes escalating to human judgment, weighing character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions. The score gets the application into consideration. Capacity, the monthly math, decides whether there's room. Consistency in the application keeps it moving through automated screening. Documentation and context matter when a human gets involved. And institutional conditions influence everything in ways applicants can't see. None of that is meant to be discouraging. It's the opposite. A process that seems arbitrary feels hopeless. A process that's understood can be prepared for. Lower the reported balances. Space out the applications. Match the product to the profile. Keep everything consistent. Have documentation ready. And read the denial letter if one comes, because it's the clearest instruction available about what to fix. This is Credit Clarity. We'll see you in the next one.